What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/All-NBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Tim Legler, who is in the Bay covering that Timberwolves and Warrior series. Legs, so much happened over the weekend. These series all took on their full personalities over the weekend. How you doing?
Good, man. I'm good. Yeah, you thought we'd know a lot more by the time we got to Monday, and I think we do. I think it's safe to say we know a lot more about these series.
I'm not sure if we know everything, like we could fully see the finish line, but I think we have a pretty good, strong impression of where these are headed, and that's part of what made this weekend so important, is you saw just the narrow margins that are going to decide the advantage going to the home stretch here. We're going to talk about all four series. All of them have something interesting to get to. But we're going to start with what I think is the closest series so far. Maybe you disagree, but it's the Denver Nuggets and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Nuggets get the win on Friday in a fantastic game that saw the role players for Denver really step up and eke one out in the clutch. But then you saw the Thunder bounce back on 37 hours rest to steal back home court advantage 92-87. I'm going to start you here. The Thunder were the best defense in the NBA all season long. They are designed to be versatile. They got defensive players all over. You voted for Lou Dort as Defensive Player of the Year. And yet, in the clutch, he was not on the court for the final 7 minutes of this game, and they still were able to defend at a high level. That shows you the depth they have defensively, not just one or two guys that make it work. They have a full rotation of defensive players, and they hold the Nuggets to 87 points on their home court. That's what stood out to me. What stood out to you?
I feel like Denver really let an opportunity slip through their fingers, man.
No question.
To hold Oklahoma City to 92 points, to have the game within reach at home. And I just thought, yes, Oklahoma City's defense we've been talking about it all year, and you saw it on full display. They're an incredible defensive team, and they've got more guys that are committed to being good defenders than any team in this league. And they've got great schemes, but they didn't particularly play well offensively. So for Denver, to think, not to be able to get to 93, which is what it was going to take to win this game, they let one slip away, man. I just thought they had too many guys offensively struggle in this game. I thought they got away from what their identity is offensively. Way too many threes, because that's not who they are as a team. They are a very low volume 3-point shooting team. But look, some of that I understand is Oklahoma City's defense. They're incredible at taking away the paint. It's like a feeding frenzy when the ball goes in there, the way that they just commit to it, the bodies and amount of traffic they put around Jokic. I understand it's not easy, but they were able to impose their will defensively on the Nuggets to the extent that Denver was relegated to taking more threes than twos. That's just not who they are as a team. And if that's the formula for them, they're going to have a hard time. So you felt like to win the series, Adam, it felt like they had to get this game. Yeah. If they come out and OKC just plays incredible and they beat them by 20, you go, okay, man, OKC was, they were going to have one of those games. They did. Now it's a best of three. You're still going to be favoring OKC because they got 2 out of those 3 at home. This was a game that was winnable for the Nuggets. And I think that's the part that's so deflating for them when the game ends. Because you look at this box score and you just go back and watch the film and you're like, we were right there. We had an opportunity to go up 3-1, really put the pressure on OKC. And most importantly, know that you've got a closeout game coming at home if you need it in game 6, right? I mean, you knowing that in the back of your head. And teams always, if they can win one of those early road games, they find themselves in that position. Now we can close this out in 6. We don't have to go back on the road for a 7th game. That's what got away from them in this one, and to where now you feel like, oh, man, is Oklahoma City going to play that way offensively again? That I think is my concern for the Nuggets.
There's no question. I mean, game one, Denver stole. The Thunder outplayed them. Denver got some lucky bounces, but also just closed that one incredibly clutch, and they stole a win. Game two clearly outplayed. I think game three was the one game you could say Denver outplayed Thunder, or it was just a coin flip game and Denver got it. And then last night, Denver was in position because it's not that I would say Denver outplayed the Thunder, but the Thunder did not outplay Denver either. The game was up for grabs in the clutch. And I'll take you to what I think determined this game. I mean, there's a lot of different factors, but here's where the game was won. Oklahoma City got into the bonus in the fourth quarter with 6 minutes and 30 seconds to go. And they got there off of a lot of unforced fouls from Denver. I think 2 of them from Russell Westbrook, just early going for plays that he probably wasn't going to get, ends up getting a foul. So Thunder get into the bonus. And when you talk about a 92-87 game legs, the bonus tilts that. If you can get into the bonus for more than half of a quarter, that you have such an advantage in a grinded out game. So that would be a factor. And then Denver, this is where it really turned. 5-second violation coming out of a timeout. And the broadcast hadn't actually come back from break. They had a graphic up, so you didn't see it. I had to go to the play-by-play to see what happened. Denver just coming out of a timeout. Nobody was in the backcourt. Jamal Murray's there. He's getting pressured by Caruso. And Michael Porter's kind of watching it for a second. And then it's like 4 seconds in. He's like, oh, I should come to help. Denver turns it over on that inbound. Shea scores. Then Jokic fouled on the next play with them in the bonus 90 feet away from the basket on an offensive rebound. Then they score 1 out of 2 free throws. Then the Nuggets get a wide open corner 3 for Russell Westbrook, and he airballed it. Later on, Jokic missed 2 free throws. Aaron Gordon missed a free throw. So you look at that and go, that sequence, the game is close. It's anybody's game. And those are unforced errors or missed wide open opportunities. And that's all it took in a game that had these margins.
Yeah, I'm glad I was going to ask you about that and clarify what happened, because you're right. And I was not able to see the game in its entirety. So I ended up going back and watching the condensed version on League Pass, which is basically when, kind of like when it's crossing half court, like you pick it up from there. So you don't see a lot of stuff that goes on. And so all of a sudden it's a 3-point game. There's a timeout. And on the condensed version of the game, they just come back and OKC's got the ball. and I was like, what happened? The score was the same. The time was the same. And I'm like, what happened? So I was going to ask you about that. That's obviously critical. It's a 3-point game when that takes place. You come out of a timeout. I mean, it's almost, did they just take for granted that OKC wasn't going to be pressuring up like that? You tell me, walk me through that, because you're down 3 with 4.5 minutes to go and you're coming out of a timeout. So you've drawn up something you want to get to, 1 possession game, and to not even get the ball in bounds is just absolutely brutal.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was. Like Caruso, this is the value of him, and Case and Wallace. I mean, they are wearing down Jamal Murray. You've got Chet and Jalen Williams and Hartenstein wearing down Jokic. So throughout the course of the game, that's your whole plan, is wear them down. Coming out of the timeout, Caruso's all over Jamal, and Jamal can't get free of him. Okay, that's understandable. But it was Michael Porter and to some extent Nikola Jokic who are at half court. And like you said, they just were not prepared for some reason that they might need to be a release valve, and nobody goes to the ball. They end up getting that 5-second violation. And to me, that was the game, because I think Denver can execute in the clutch. They can do some stuff. Unforced errors, those compound in the clutch so much. Shea got a bucket there, and it just, the momentum was fully in OKC's favor at that point.
It's amazing to me the number of times we've seen in the postseason teams having a hard time initiating the inbounds. Something that simple. It's cost teams games. Yeah. This didn't cost them the game because you still got plenty of time. You're only down 3 points. So it didn't cost you the game. But in a game like this, that was this ugly at times offensively, and in large part to the defensive effort of both teams. But in a game like this, much more so than in a shootout, every single little detail matters. Yeah. And something like that, it's a lost possession at a time in the game you just couldn't afford it. So that was a killer. And then the free throws certainly hurt them. And look, is it fair to say we give this guy a lot of praise, a lot of love, man? We do it all the time. I voted for him for MVP. He's got to be better.
No question.
Right? Nikola Jokic has to play better. And I expect him to play better. I think he's going to really rise to the occasion in Game 5. I don't know if it'll be enough. you're going into that building and that environment in there, man, is so tough. They only lost 6 games in the regular season there. So we know what they're facing now. So I don't know if they'll win the game. I think he'll respond. But for me, a lot of what went down yesterday is he has to be better. He didn't finish a lot of shots that he just has to finish his fair percentage of what you're used to in the regular season. I mean, he was 11 for 14 for the line, so it's not like all day long he was bricking free throws, but those are 2 critical misses at that time in the game. It's a 4-point game, and he misses 2 free throws. Just, it's a killer. He's had turnovers throughout the series that have plagued him. He didn't have a single offensive rebound yesterday. So he's just got to absolutely play better. There are times you win because of your stars, plain and simple. And then there's other games, some nights, where you don't have a chance to win because your stars weren't good enough. And I think that was an example of it. And it's not just him. Other guys didn't play well or shoot the ball well particularly. But I think it starts with Jokic, man. And his team against a team like this was the best team in the league. He's got to be very good to the best player on the floor. It's somewhere in that range.
Well, I think he has to be the best player on the floor. I think he has to be the best player. Very good. I don't even know we'll get it done. He has to be great. And the Nuggets led the NBA in points in the paint this year. That's their MO. They beat you on the glass. They beat you in the paint. Transition. Like, that's how they win. Transition is going to go away, especially against a great defense. What the Thunder have done in this series is they have said, I don't think Denver can beat us from the 3-point line. No matter what happens. Denver is leading the playoffs over these last 3 games in wide open 3-point field goal attempts. They're getting 22 a game or 22 and a half, and they are shooting 34% on those. And OKC, I think, knows, hey, they don't want to do that. We're not going to let Jokic make any moves. He's not going to post up without seeing 2 bodies. He's not going to be able to catch on the move and get into the paint. So Jokic has to become a jump shooter, which is not his favorite part of his game, but we talk about him being a complete player. That's what makes him a complete player. No matter what you do, he has an answer for. But he cannot buy a jump shot in this series. Not just the threes, even the face-ups. I mean, all of Jokic's game right now is face-up, and you credit them. They're wearing him down. It's been an exhausting. I think they've played every other night now for 7 or 8 games in a row. It's been exhausting, but he's had shots that you just expect him to make in those moments. And this is the first time I've ever been surprised by Nikola Jokic. He's had bad games. I thought he had a bad game in game 3, so he's had bad games, but never 2 in a row, especially when the game was on the line. And this was the first time where if he just makes 1 more of those, I think Denver gets out. But he missed after missed after missed. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair. And I don't think I'm going to bet on him having 3 in a row. I can tell you that. He's too good of a player. He puts too much pressure on himself, and he typically comes through when they need him. So I think he's gonna have a great game 5. I don't know if it'll be enough against OKC at home, but I think Jokic is going to be efficient. Now, he might not put up, one of those monster 40-20 games or something like that. I just think he's going to play a game in which he's above 50% from the field. I think he's gonna make a couple of threes. He's going to be much better with his decision making and turnovers. I just think he's going to bounce back from it. He's not going to have 3 games in a row. He's too good to do that. Will it be enough? Doubtful. Because I think that, to your point, Oklahoma City has the personnel. They've got the team speed to execute a game plan like they are, which is they're going to see if Christian Brown and Russell Westbrook and Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon, maybe in a different category, but even him, can these guys beat us from the 3? You look at yesterday, 4 for 23 from the 3-point line between Westbrook, Brown, and Porter. 4 for 23, and most of those were clean. Those are clean looks that they're getting. And I'm actually at the point I'm kind of starting to expect this from Michael Porter Jr. because I just don't think he's right physically or between the ears. I think he's just in a bad place. Westbrook and Brown, they're streaky. So, and I thought Christian Brown actually played well in this game, but he's 2 for 9 from the 3. And those are clean. They're clean looks, man. But I thought he did play well, and he competed, and he did some other stuff. But at the end of the day, you're getting 4 for 18 out of Westbrook and Brown, and most of those are open looks. You've got to make more than 4. If you make 7 or 8 for 18, which still is an outrageous percentage, if you do that, very good chance they win this game.
Yeah. Denver's problem here is they're just going to pack the paint and dare Denver to shoot. And Michael Porter, Jamal Murray can shoot. Everybody else is a mixed bag. You see, Michael Porter's a plus 15 in this game. He played terrible, but just having an extra body on the court keeps the defense at least a little bit honest, a little bit more spacing, and Denver gets it done. They even won the Jokic minutes. I'll take you to where I think this game, the other area I think this game was lost. When you start the fourth quarter, there's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's on the bench. Jokic is on the bench. So Denver's weakest defender is on the bench, or at least, Jokic, to where you can now switch defensively. And then Shai is off the court. So your best engine on offense is out. And Denver opened in a zone. And I don't know why they did this. They had a switchable defensive lineup. And Cason Wallace hit 2 threes, and Aaron Wiggins hit 1 3. And that to me was the game. There was other things that happened. Obviously, the game extended. There's other plays. But that was a moment where you look at it and say, this is your best chance. They're not scoring in the half court, and Shai's off the court. They're not going to get easy looks. But you go into a zone. They were prepared for it, got open looks for role players who stepped up to the plate and went 3 for 3 on those shots. So that one, to me, confused me, because then Yoke has to come back in with 10 minutes left on the clock. He got a 2-minute rest in the second half, and it was just a killer.
Totally agree with you. I made a note of that when I was watching that deal. And I actually thought their zone, there were other times in the game that I didn't like it when Jokic was on the floor either. And they were giving up their zone and positioning of their 2 baseline guys, not the guy in the middle of the lane, but whoever that is. And it's been different guys on different possessions are playing like the back along the baseline out on the short baseline area, were so high that they allowed 3 lob dunks against the zone when the ball got to the middle, and then a 4th time a guy got fouled on a lob dunk. So, I don't remember if they made the free throws or not, but let's just say made 1 out of 2. That's at least 7 points they gave up strictly because they were out of position. Those back guys were so high, thinking about the ball going out to the wing and contesting the 3-point shot. When that ball got to the middle, a couple of times it was Jokic. One time for sure it was Aaron Gordon. When those guys step up to face that guy that catches the ball, that's an easy lob. You got Holmgren running in along the baseline. One time it was Hartenstein, and they're throwing it to each other. And one time I think Jalen Williams threw one to Hartenstein because he got into the middle of the lane. And so they got to make some corrections on their zone. I get playing zone against OKC sometimes and trying to see if you can dare them to take some, threes with guys running out at them. But I didn't think they executed their zone very well at all. And I certainly wouldn't have gone to the zone with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the bench.
Yeah. So now you look at it. I mean, both teams have similar strategies. Denver's also packing the paint. I think Oklahoma City, you trust them to make more of their shots. By the way, in this game, I know much is made about poor shooting from some of the star players. Here's who shot above 50% in the game. Jalen Williams, 1 of 2. Aaron Wiggins, 4 of 8. Cason Wallace, 4 of 7. Aaron Gordon, 5 of 10. That's it. One of those guys was 1 of 2. So really you're talking about 3 players in the entire game shot over 50%. And that just shows you how tough the margins are. I think this was the chance Denver needed to win the series. They now go back to Oklahoma City. They look dog-tired, and they're going to go on the road. I expect Lou Dort to make more of his shots. I expect J-Dub to make more of his shots. I don't necessarily expect Westbrook or Christian Brown or Michael Porter to make more of their shots. So this is where I think the Thunder got back exactly what they needed to. And the fact that they did it in the clutch, to me, has to give them an enormous amount of confidence.
I think this game, man, is going to fall largely on the shoulders of Jokic and Murray and two guys that have the offensive punch and capability to be able to withstand this defense, this environment, this speed, and have huge games. I mean, you might need 60 between the two of them. Maybe that's 35 and 25, 37 and 23, whatever it ends up being. I think you're probably going to need 60 points between those two guys because I don't think you can realistically expect it from anyone else. Yeah. I think Aaron Gordon is capable, clearly. I mean, Aaron Gordon could also, he could have a big game. So maybe if it's not 60 between the two of them, maybe it's 75 between the 3 of them, like something like that, where Aaron Gordon, maybe he gets 25. With Jokic's 30 and Murray has 20. Like something like that is what it's going to take. And against this defense, man, in that building, that's a very tall order. So I know how frustrated they must be. Very similar, we're going to talk about it in a second, to what Golden State experienced. Yeah. That's a winnable game. You're in a 1-possession game. You have the lead in the second half. Then it's a one possession game, 5 minutes to go. And you just kind of feel like they only have to win, at least one to guarantee they're buying enough time, hopefully, to get Curry back at the end of the series. Not winning that one. Now here we go into game 4 tonight. Like, Minnesota's probably sensing all of this too. Now maybe Minnesota plays great tonight, go home and close them out. You never see Curry.
Yeah.
That's like how important that game was the other night. And Golden State had it in their grasp on a night they didn't play very well offensively. And they didn't close. And the same thing with Denver. I felt like to win it. It's one thing to say, oh, they can be competitive the rest of it. To win the series, you're going to have to win those games, particularly against OKC, when you are in position to win the game with 5 minutes to go. And they weren't able to get it done.
If we rewind, my last comment on this series, if you recall, a week ago, I asked you if you thought that Jokic would have a harder time in this series than he did in the last one, where he was going up against Zubac. And we disagreed about this because Zubac is a better one-on-one defender. But I know what causes Denver, not Jokic, but Denver, the most trouble is when you could put a full 7-footer on Jokic and bring another 7-footer behind him, in this case, Chet Holmgren. And to me, that's always the toughest thing, because it takes away Jokic can score on anybody one-on-one, but when you have to go with 2 guys and then you can shrink the court with everybody else with great defenders, that's the toughest thing. In game 1, they guarded him with Chet. He went off. Since then, they've adjusted to this strategy, and I'm not surprised. So you say Jokic's going to have a great game in game 5. He has to. Given his status, 3-time MVP, best player in the world, he has to show up and make some tough shots. But I just don't think he's going to get post-ups. I don't think he's going to get elbow touches. He's going to have to make 3-pointers. He's going to have to catch on the move and finish, and he's going to have to get ugly buckets. But this defense, to me, is the toughest he has faced in a playoffs because of not any one player, but the collective way they're able to shell the paint around him.
Well, look, we're gonna obviously put all this kind of right there at his feet and what's he got for him. He had 42 and 22 in the first game of this series in Oklahoma City. So he does have
defense. But that was a different defense. That was them trying to guard him with Chet, thinking we could guard it straight up. We got a great defensive player. He went through that.
I think he's got answers, man. That's all. I'm confident the guy's going to have answers. It's going to start with making jump shots. He's going to have to make some threes, and he's going to have to make that turn face elbow jumper, because he got off some of those in the last game and he wasn't able to get it. His ability to post up and get one-on-one or even anything near the rim where in rhythm, Oklahoma City doesn't let anybody do that. So he's going to have a harder time with that. I do think he absolutely can get in on the offensive glass and maybe you get 2-3 putbacks, get to the line off the offensive glass. He's going to have to eat up free throws, and he's going to have to make jump shots. And I think he's capable of doing all of those things. So again, I think he's going to show up in a big way. I just don't know if that's going to be enough, because Oklahoma City at home could put up 120. I mean, they could shoot the ball much better than they did in game 4.
So I think Oklahoma City closes this one out here over the next 2 games, likely. But the one thing I'll say is a hallmark of Denver is I have felt like their series were over so many times in the past, and they've bounced back. So right now, I don't see any rational reason to think the Nuggets are going to get a better shot than they've gotten in the first 4 games of the series. But Denver is good at this. They're tough to kill. They're even against better teams. They're just tough to put away. They don't fold. So this series, I don't think is quite over, even if it absolutely feels like it. All right, let's take a break. On the other side, let's get to the other series, including Wolves Warriors. That was a classic. Legs saw it up close and personal. So we'll ask what he saw sitting courtside and calling this game on the other side. The NBA playoffs are underway, so there's no better time to be in the arena experiencing that playoff intensity in person. If you're trying to catch your team live this postseason, let us tell you about our friends at Vivid Seats. Vivid Seats is the best place to get your tickets for any live event. They have the best selection of games and seats, and every purchase is backed by their 100% buyer guarantee. Plus, Vivid Seats is the only ticket marketplace that rewards you for every purchase. So download the Vivid Seats app and start earning rewards towards free tickets. New Vivid Seats users who use the promo code ALLNBA30 will receive $30 off of their first purchase of $300 or more. Once again, click on the link in the description of this show, or go to vividseats.com, or download the Vivid Seats app and use the promo code ALLNBA30 for $30 off your first purchase of $300 or more. When it comes to playoff basketball, being there is all that matters. So experience it live with Vivid Seats. I also want to tell you about Lucy Nicotine. It's 100% pure nicotine, always tobacco-free. It's available in pouches, gum, and our favorite, the Breakers. Breakers are pouches with a capsule of liquid flavor inside that helps saturate the pouch. Breakers are available in 4 milligram or 8 milligram options. They have flavors like mint, berry, citrus, and espresso. Pouches go all the way up to 12 milligrams. So if you're not a pouch guy or gal, Lucy Gum is available in 2 milligram, 4 milligram, or 6 milligram options. You can set yourself up with a subscription to get it right to your door. Level up your nicotine routine with Lucy. Go to lucy.co/allnba and use the promo code AllNBA to get 20% off your first order. Lucy offers free shipping and has a 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. That's lucy.co and use the code AllNBA to get 20% off and always free shipping. And here comes the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. All right, back here on the All-NBA show. Make sure you're subscribed if you like getting Legler's perspective on all of the playoff games. We're doing this 4 times a week, always breaking down the games. Nothing else, just the games. Let's get into the other ones now. The Wolves beat the Warriors 102-97, comeback fashion. Ant had 28 in the second half. That's the most points in the second half of a playoff so far this year. But I thought Julius Randle was the difference. Triple-double and tons of clutch plays on both ends. Who would have guessed both ends of the floor he made big plays? What did you see up close and personal with this one?
Yeah, all right, let's start with the 2 positives for Minnesota, the 2 guys you just mentioned. So Anthony Edwards had a very subdued first half. He was out of rhythm. Yep. He wasn't really seeking like some of the shots he normally likes to get to in certain areas of the floor. I thought he had opportunities. I mean, Golden State battled him, but I thought it was more about him. And then in the third quarter, about early to mid third quarter, he had 2 plays where he cut from the weak side when eyes got turned on Randle, who was trying to get somewhere in the post or mid post, and the weak side of the defense sort of turned their head to take a peek. He had a weak side cut for a dunk, and then he had a play where the ball got reversed, and then he got overplayed on the opposite wing, and he back cut, caught it, laid it in. And it literally, you could see the look in his eyes when the ball went through 2 times in a row. He turned into a different player right before our eyes. Yeah. His level of bounce and aggressiveness from that point, the rest of the game, and the way he was getting into his deep shot, how much more confident he was in that, he took over the game offensively. Randle was great throughout. Anthony Edwards is sensational in the second half. Julius Randle was great throughout the entire game. I mean, it actually snuck up on us that he had this triple-double. He was such a force, man. He played so strong. He got what he wanted offensively. His playmaking was fantastic. And then there was a stretch when the Warriors were trying to fight and keep their head above water in the last 8 minutes. It felt like every single defensive rebound Julius Randle was getting to prevent them from having an opportunity to get a second chance, and which Golden State was going to need all of those in a night they shot the ball like this. So I wanted to start with those 2 guys. They deserve all the credit in the world. They rose to the occasion in a huge way because this was absolutely a winnable game for Golden State. And Adam, as I said earlier, this would have done what they needed to mentally. If Golden State wins that game, we don't know exactly with this hamstring, but it definitely gives you a much greater chance that we see Steph Curry at the end of this series. Even if they were down 3-2 going into game 6 back in the Bay Area, Curry makes his emergence then. That's still a winnable series for Golden State, and they didn't get it done. So now they're facing the prospect. They don't win one of these next 2, and really by that, I mean they've got to win this game tonight. They got to win this home game because they go down 3-1. They go to Minnesota. I think they're getting closed out, and you never see Steph Curry. That's what was on the line in this game, and Golden State was just not able to get the stops they needed, and their offense outside of 2 guys was non-existent.
I want to stick with the Julius Randle piece of this, though, before we move on to Golden State, because to me, this game represented the difference between Karl Anthony Towns in that spot and Julius Randle. And it really is the ability to have another creator. I mean, Cat can create for himself, and he is a good sort of connecting passer. He can do different things. Randall's ability to collapse the defense against a very good defense, by the way. The Wolves as a team, according to Second Spectrum, scored 1.6 points per possession on direct isolations in this game. That's Anthony Edwards. It's Julius Randle forcing rotations. And having another guy like Karl Anthony Towns can do that a little bit, the post or whatever. Julius Randle puts pressure on you getting downhill. And to me, that's what made this team different and what makes them different and why I've been so high on them. So to me, even though I know you just commented on Julius Randle, but 12 assists for him, that's something that is different about this Wolves team. You now have to game plan for two major creators who are capable of those kind of numbers.
Yeah, and look, they made 13 threes in the game. I'm going to get into the three-point shooting for Golden State in a minute because I couldn't even believe what I was watching out of them offensively from the three-point line. But so he had some cuts to Anthony Edwards, but he also facilitated the majority of their three-point shots from the post or from the ISO or off of direct drives. So they were 13 for 34. That's an average night in the NBA. 38%, decent percentage. 13 is like what an average team makes on a given night in the NBA. Everything about it was average, but the timing of their three-point shooting closed the game out. And a lot of that was dictated by Julius Randle. And look, some of that was, and I want to get into Draymond Green here. Draymond Green was responsible for guarding Julius Randle a lot in this game. He was in foul trouble. And so Julius Randle was able to do some things during a critical time in the game to create offense, either for himself or for others. Draymond Green, this is one of the worst stat lines you'll ever see Draymond Green put up. I mean, he was non-existent in this game. He was a non-factor other than, he had a handful of good defensive plays we pointed out on the air. He's always going to do that. Draymond Green, 29 minutes, 2 points.
2 points. 2 rebounds.
2 rebounds and 4 assists with 5 turnovers and 6 fouls. Right. So he had more turnovers and fouls than rebounds, points, and assists combined.
It's crazy.
I mean, he's a non-foul, and then the two plays he committed to foul out of this game, and one of them was pretty funny, Adam. So I don't know if you saw the game in detail, but he's got 4 critical time in the game, under 5 minutes to go. It's a 2-point game, and Jimmy Butler drives to the basket, and Draymond Green holds up Julius Randle. He puts his arms around him and grabs onto his jersey to prevent him from sliding over and making a play on Butler at the rim. First of all, I don't think he needed to, because I think Jimmy Butler had an angle. He was going to get there and draw contact most likely. So it was unnecessary. He's trying to be sneaky about it and make a play and hold him up. And Julius Randle immediately starts, because they called a foul on Randle. He immediately starts going like this to the bench, and he's pulling on his jersey. They go to replay, reverse it. So there's his 5th foul. And this is a pretty funny moment for me. Dave Pasch goes to me on the air. What do you do here if you're Steve Kerr? Draymond's got his 5th foul, 2-point game. And I said, listen, man, with this time in the game, you got to leave him out there and trust him. He's played in foul trouble most of his career. You got to trust him. Yeah. Adam, I don't think 5 seconds elapsed from the time I said that before Jaden McDaniels drove to the rim and Draymond Green fouled him on a dunk. Yeah. And he fouled out of the game. And I said, just like I said, I would have gotten him out of the game immediately. So what else could I say? I had to make a joke about it. But then I immediately called him out. What are you doing? And he was screaming about the call. He shoves Jaden McDaniels in the back on a drive along the baseline to dunk it. You give it up. You'll be down 4 with 4.5 minutes to go, and you're still on the floor. He just no self-control sometimes, and it really cost him. I'm not saying they're going to win the game with Draymond Green because he didn't do anything offensively anyway, but maybe he makes a defensive play that mattered. Maybe he does, make a great pass to someone to create offense because he can do that. I thought that was the turning point in the game. That sequence right there, I thought prevented from Golden State from really having an opportunity to win.
100%. I think these playoffs have really been physical in a surprising way, especially if you compare it to the regular season. It's almost a different game how physical it is. But I think that we just talked about Jokic's foul 90 feet from the basket, Draymond's 2 fouls in a row. There is an intensity that comes with the contact, with a discipline to understand you can't exploit that. And I think Draymond and probably Jokic too, the game's so physical, and there's a difference between we're going to play through it versus, well, what if I just hack a guy or shove a guy? It's no, you're still going to get called. That's still a foul. There's difference between intensity and physicality and just fouling a guy. And I thought Draymond, like Jokic, you could tell they were flustered, emotionally. They were just out of rhythm. And so those fouls, the teams that are committing those types of fouls late in game are losing. And for it to come from a veteran player like Draymond Green, I mean, it's not surprising because we know how he plays, but he is smart enough to know what that moment was all about. And he pushed his luck anyway.
Yeah. And I think part of it is Draymond Green thinks And it's the same thing when he gets, how many times we've seen him get a technical and then he just decides, well, now I'm really going to ramp it up toward the officials because he thinks that you're not going to throw me out of the game. It
That's
has
totally
the
what
opposite
it
effect
was.
with Draymond. It has the opposite effect. And I think in this case, he's thinking there's no way in hell they're going to foul me out with my defensive reputation. There's no way. So in his mind, it's marginal contact, but it's obvious contact. It's obvious. I mean, and it forced Jaden McDaniels to miss the dunk. It wasn't like Draymond blocked it at all. He just shoved him in the hip in the back area as McDaniels drove along the baseline. The problem was on the angle he took on the closeout, and Jaden McDaniels, his whole body was turned and opened so much that Jaden McDaniels had a direct straight line drive right along the baseline when he caught the ball. Draymond wasn't squared up at all. Maybe he forces a contested three if he's positioned properly. So he's out of position with his feet, and then he fouls to compound it. And I know he's thinking, they're not going to foul me out with some marginal contact at the rim. Yeah, they did. And he had to watch the last 4.5 minutes from the bench. And again, he didn't do anything offensively in this game at all. So it was really going to come down to Jimmy Butler and Kuminga, who was sensational, maybe his best game as an NBA player, to keep them. One of those two guys was going to have to score because you weren't getting it from anywhere else. 63 of their 97 points from two guys.
That's insane. Well, you certainly weren't getting it this whole series from Pajemski, who's been really, really bad in this series. Yeah. But let's go instead to Kuminga. So Steph Curry's out. The Warriors have to flip their entire style of play. They're not using Buddy Hield like he's Steph Curry. I mean, he even talked about this after the game. You kind of become more isocentric. You're going to try to slow it down a little bit and get guys to get buckets. Kuminga fits that. I actually think Kuminga has a really important role to play now that Steph is out to try to keep him above water because he can get buckets. I don't know if he's going to have 30 points on 11 of 18 shooting in game 4, but he is a scorer. He is a bucket. So what did you see from him now? Because that was probably his best playoff game.
Oh, I think it's the best game of his career. I don't think there's any question about it, especially under the circumstances. I mean, this is a really important playoff game. Down Steph Curry, you're not really a part of the rotation to the extent that you were in a regular season. So mentally, he's probably not in a great place. What happened was at the end of game 2, or literally the second half of game 2, he and Trayce Jackson-Davis played really well. And I think what it showed Kerr was we need more athleticism against a team that is longer than us. They're faster than us. They're more physical. We need size and guys that can just go be athletes and make something happen. And I actually thought Trayce Jackson-Davis gave him a great lift in this game. He was 3 for 4, but only played 11 minutes. So it was basically the start of each half. So I don't know exactly what that was about. Kuminga answered the bell, man. As much as he gets criticized, and it's obvious that the Warriors think he is clearly talented, he is a guy that they think is a little bit aloof. He doesn't make the 50-50 winning plays, like secure that rebound that he got beat to one in game 2 by DiVincenzo. And I could see Kerr's reaction on the bench, and he had just checked into the game. And it was obviously supposed to be his ball, and he gets outrun to it. Get on the floor for a loose ball. Slide over when it's your turn to rotate and take somebody penetrating right in the chest like Pajemski does. It's those plays that he's not making that have kept him from really rising to his place that we expected in Golden State. So this is where we're at going into this game. Yet they had to call on him. What choice do you have? And man, it was the guy sensational in this game. Sensational. And he and Butler, you can't ask anymore. And that's what's kind of scary here. You know you're not getting 30 points out of Jonathan Kuminga tonight, okay? That's not going to happen. Butler could have another 30-point game. So let's say Kuminga just has a good game. Let's say he has 18 to 20. And they only scored 97 last game. Where's it coming from, Adam? Who else? Now, Draymond was non-existent. Can Draymond do what he did in the first half of game 1 when he had 4 threes? Like, is it possible?
No.
Can Pajemski give you something? Can he give you something? I mean, look, and by the way, I want to point this out. The guy, he led them in rebounding for 3/4 of this game. Pajemski did a lot of things in this game that equal winning plays, but man, oh man, do they need somebody to put the ball in the basket. And he was 1 for 10, and he's wearing it overtly with every miss. You see how frustrated he is. So I don't know where he's at between the ears. He is capable of a 20-point game because he had good looks in this game. So what do you think, man? Like, if Kuminga gives you 20, can Podziemski give you 15? Can Draymond give you 15, assuming that you get 30 out of Butler? I think that's where we're at with Golden State. Steve Kerr's praying every trip for someone to make a shot.
Well, you're talking about Kuminga, best game of his career. Now he has to repeat that, and you need to get something from Podziemski
Right.
or one of these other guys. So that's why I think this game was so important. And I think it was equally as meaningful for Minnesota to get this one as it was for Oklahoma City, because Denver is a champion, the core of that team. The Warriors are champions, the core of that team. The other two are not. They have not ever made the finals. You have to, and I'm such a believer in this, you have to win games like that as a rite of passage to kind of graduate to the next stage. And I think for both Minnesota and for Oklahoma City, that was an important, meaningful game to grind that one out. So now tonight, what do you expect? What do you look for as you're getting ready to call this one?
Well, it's exactly that, man. It's going to be of the other guys we just mentioned. And so I see some people talking about Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield actually played okay in this game. I mean, he had 14 points. You know, I know he's had some bigger games lately, but I mean, really, if you look at Buddy Hield and what he's done for the last 3 months, what he did for probably 4 of the games in the Houston series, you know, he has struggled offensively. He shot 30% for the three for 3 months. Now, I know he played great in game 7 of the Houston series. He played great, really, in the first 2 games of this one. The second one was more meaningless because they were down big. He played okay yesterday. So he did his thing. If you get 14 out of Buddy Hield, Steve Kerr will take it. Yeah. You know, so it's really how much less you're getting out of really Podziemski, Green, and Moody. Because Moses Moody right now, also another guy, he's capable of having 12, 15 points. Those 3 guys, man, where's it coming from? And I think I'm going to be looking, do one of those guys make their mark in the first quarter, particularly Podziemski and Draymond? Can they find a little bit of rhythm to take some of the pressure off of Butler or Kuminga? Because what I worry about is if we have another first quarter where those guys are non-existent offensively, I think you're going to start to see Jimmy Butler and Kuminga by the middle of the second quarter start to fade a little bit, man. That's a lot of pressure to carry every trip up the floor against a really good defensive team. Shots from other people will loosen things up. And that's really what I'm looking for, man. To me, is what this game is all about, is how those guys play. And I think the first 18 minutes of the game will tell you if Golden State's going to have a chance to win this thing at the end.
Let's switch to the next game here, which is the Celtics beating the Knicks 115-93 in New York. So home team has not won a game in the series yet. The first 3 or 2.5 quarters looked exactly like the first 2.5 quarters of the previous ones. Boston was making shots. They built a lead. The difference was they didn't stop making shots, and New York wasn't able to make their comeback. They did hold Boston to 19 points in the fourth quarter. But, Legs, is it as simple as we keep you especially, we've been dogging Boston for taking a bunch of threes, but in that game, they made 20 out of 40. And in previous, is it they shouldn't count on doing that again? Or could Boston say, hey, this is what we do more often than not?
Well, we have to be very clear in the difference between the way they look on nights they're criticized for taking too many threes, like they did in game 1, which was, to me, absurd. The number of quick threes that they took with a 20-point lead in a playoff game. You literally opened the door for the Knicks. And so to take 60 of them when at least a third of those or more are rushed first 6 seconds of the shot clock, semi to fully contested shots. Okay, that's a lot different than what you saw yesterday. They played inside out basketball, which is when they're at their best. They took 40 threes. 40 is still less than their season average. They shot the hell out of the ball because of the way that they got the threes. That's the difference with the Celtics. It's not like take 25, 30 threes, pound it in the lane, drive all night. That's not who they are. I don't think myself or anybody was saying that. Take smarter threes and take the threes that are more likely to be on balance, clean, and have more of an effect on wearing a defense down. The ones that they took in Boston in game 1, you didn't even make the Knicks work at all, and they're trying to erase a deficit. That's the difference. Their three-point shot quality yesterday was as good as it can get for the Celtics. And yeah, they're going to make a high percentage because they've got a lot of great shooters. So I just thought the way they got them was totally different. But here's what we have now, Adam. They played 7 times this year, counting the regular season. The Celtics have had 20-point leads in 6 of those games.
It's crazy, man.
6 of them. One game, it was an overtime game late in the year. It was the only game that these two teams played out of 7 that the Boston Celtics did not have a 20-point lead. In most of those games, they had it in the first half. So it's clear the Knicks have a hell of a time guarding the Celtics. So if you play smart and you move the ball and you don't play so rushed and frantic with your hunting these shots, I don't know that the Knicks can guard them. And you might see exactly the same sort of result in game 4.
Yeah. This is how I feel as well. Like, as much as they are down 2-1, I feel like Boston has had some choke jobs here in games 1 and 2. And this is nothing against New York. New York took those games from them. I'm not trying to take it away. Somebody has to be there. But the fact that they've had these major leads and blown them, to me, makes me think Boston can replicate it. And I'm going to go to 2 things. One, Payton Pritchard played 35 minutes in this game. Drew Holiday played 25. This might be something that they see just in this series, that you need that extra 3-point shooting, smaller defender to run out there just a little quicker. And then 2, this note from Second Spectrum in game 1, in pick and rolls featuring a center, the Knicks switched 42.5%, almost half of the pick and rolls they switched with their center. In game 2, it was 30%. Last game, just 25%. And I almost wonder why they're going away from it. They had Cat and a drop a little bit more. Boston loves that. Boston gets easy 3-point shots off of pick and rolls when you run that. So I just thought that was a weird, I don't know if it's an adjustment or bad execution, but the Knicks gave them what I consider to be rhythm threes in that pick and roll when you just play a drop center.
They're in an interesting spot here because I saw a number this morning. Their starting 5 is a minus 29 collect in this series, the Knicks. And it's even worse. Like, most of that is at the start of the second half. They are a plus 8 with another group with Mitchell Robinson on the floor, which is weird because of all this free throw issue that's taken over his minutes. But they defensively, man, they have a very difficult time with that unit guarding the Celtics. But you need Karl Anthony Towns on the floor because you need the punch. So they've got a tough dilemma here. And now when Mitchell Robinson's on the floor, I think the Celtics see those numbers. They're even more committed to sending him to the line. He only played 19 minutes. He took 12 free throws. He was 4 for 12. So here's the important thing about that. Not only is it he's not converting the point opportunity that you have when he's at the line, it's not allowing Jalen Brunson to have a possession. That's really what it's about. And it disrupts their rhythm to such an extent. It's been highly effective. We haven't seen a lot of this in the NBA over the last several years. This was a thing at one point in the league, if you remember. I mean, there were different guys got this treatment throughout their careers. There's been a number of guys we could point to. Bruce Bowen used to get this kind of treatment. Shaq would get this kind of treatment. So Ben Wallace, like, you'd have guys that got this kind of treatment. You haven't seen a lot of this in the NBA. They put in a rule in to try to make it harder to do it. So you've got to do it within certain periods of the game. It's been effective, and I do think it's disrupted the rhythm of the Knicks, but they need Mitchell Robinson on the floor. The numbers show they have a much better chance to guard them if he's on the court.
But what about the hack of strategy here? Because, I mean, again, I guess that's kind of what you're saying here. But do you just ride through it? Count on Mitchell to make some shots?
I don't think you have a choice, man. I don't think you have a choice. You know, I mean,
he's really bad. I mean, I have no faith when he's at the line. It's not like it looks like, hey, he can have a hot day.
Yeah, the one he shot, I don't remember if it was game 2 or game 3. It never got higher than the bottom of the net. I mean, it literally looked like he shot a pub dart, like he's at a bar. It went straight. I've never seen a worse free throw, I don't think, in an NBA game than that miss. I don't remember which game it was, but I don't know that you have a choice. I mean, they're only giving him 19 minutes. It's not like he's playing 35 minutes, man, and they put him on like 20 times, and he's 6 for 20. Like, you got to play him some. But the Celtics have done a great job of wrapping him up and going to this, fouling strategy off the ball, and it eliminates possessions to put points on the board from your best players. So I think it's been effective.
This series, to me, at 3-1 reminds me of the OKC-Denver one, in that I think who wins this game wins it. Because if Boston gets this one and gets to go back home for 2 out of the last 3, I think that I would feel confident saying they're going to win it. But if they go down 3-1, The Knicks only have to get one more. I think Boston's the better team, but you only have to get one more. You have Jalen Brunson on your side. You have those dogs around the perimeter playing defense. So tonight, I think, is a must-win game. Let's go to the last one here, which is the Pacers beating the Cavs 129-109. This one was a blowout. The haymaker that the Pacers levied on them to end the second quarter to go into halftime was maybe the biggest haymaker I've ever seen. The last 4 minutes of that game felt like the biggest shots you could possibly hit, and it went on play after play after play to open up a 40-point lead. Do you remember that sequence? Because that was insane, seeing how many big-time shots they hit.
Going to get the numbers here. Do I remember it? My gosh. So they scored 15 points in 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
And maybe it was only 2:20, not 4, but yes, that was it.
2 minutes and 20 seconds because, again, I couldn't see most of the game. So I'm watching it on playback, and I'm looking at the thing. And I know what they had at halftime. I know they had 80 points. And I'm looking at the score, and there's 2.5 minutes to go, and they have 65.
Right.
And I'm like, well, what is about to happen right here? Because I didn't see it live. And, man, well, I saw what happened. It was one after another. I mean, obviously they can't play any better. What a difference, by the way. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, the Oklahoma City-Denver game was 17-8 at the end of the first quarter.
Same sport.
Game, and the Pacers had 80 points at halftime. Okay, so you talk about a different style and shot making and flow and pace. And maybe it says something about the Cavaliers defense too. There's a lot went on in this game, man. Indiana thumped them. Indiana is a really good offensive team, and they are firing right now, and they have so much swagger and belief that the Cavaliers cannot guard them.
Yep.
And they're proving it. And look, for Cleveland, you had a lot of guys not play well, and these injuries disrupted them, I think. But this isn't the team I watched all year, Adam.
Yeah.
That was not what I watched yesterday. And they've got those guys back now. Now, whether they're limited or not 100%, look, they're out there. They're out there, and they're moving pretty well. But this isn't the team I watched all year. Donovan Mitchell, first of all, I thought his body language and leadership was really poor yesterday. I thought he gave up the fight middle of the second quarter. And look, you're down 20 plus. I understand you're probably not winning the game. But come on, man. In the NBA, first of all, you do erase those kind of leads. But more importantly, it's just the fight you have to show to get your team back on rhythm. Even if you end up losing the game by 18, you have to show some fight to maintain some rhythm at some point, because you still have a chance to win the series. You were the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. Okay, so I know you're facing a tough hole here, 3-1. It can be done in this type, in a 1-4 matchup. It can be done, but not when you look that defeated. I was very disappointed with the Cavaliers overall, and just their lack of answers, lack of fight. And you talk about haymaker. I love the way you put that. That was literally like when it was Mike Tyson, Jerry Cooney fight. I'll never forget this. And Jerry Cooney, at one point, he got hit and he kind of stumbled back into the ropes, and both of his hands went down, and he's almost sitting on the rope.
And Mike Tyson can't fall down.
Mike Tyson hit him with 4 straight hooks, trying to take his head off like Rock'em Sock'em Robots. And that's what this felt like at the end of the second quarter. They were kind of laughing at him, clapping in their face, mocking them. It was a party in there, man. And so let's see what Cleveland has to respond to that, because they were throttled. Now they get to go home, and try to get it to 3-2, put a lot of pressure on Indiana to close that thing out at home in Game 6.
Well, this is, I hate to dog on Cleveland, because I really do think the story is that they had injuries. I mean, I'm not trying to let them off the hook here. I had my doubts about a Donovan Mitchell-led team. And as great as he has been, the body language part of this, to me, is something I've seen before with him in the playoffs. But to me, the story was their injuries. But nonetheless, there's still something about how you fight, how you carry yourself when things are not going your way, even in a losing effort. And I agree with you. I'm disappointed in the body language of one Donovan Mitchell in this game, because to me, you're down big, whatever. Find something to lead you into the next game, or just to lead you into the next half. And he didn't have it. And so to me, I just have seen it too many times that I think it's a fair talking point with him to say there's something about his teams that there's not a lot of great energy on the court when these games get turned the other way. Yep. By the way, pick and pop was a killer for Indiana. You talked about their offense. I just want to give them a credit. They've got the double bigs. They being Cleveland, they got the double bigs. They have a great defense. Miles Turner has been incredible. And Halliburton was the most fun player so far in the second round, because some of the passing, he put on a passing clinic, a no-look passing clinic, but that pick and pop has stretched the Cleveland defense beyond their ability. And to me, that's the story of why they're going so well.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. So they're like I said, they also, by the way, anytime Miles Turner or Siakam, somehow Cleveland kept getting in these compromised switches where those guys just were sealing people in the paint. The ball went in every time. And then they had the best of both worlds. Like, they did whatever they wanted to really the entire first half. And then it's just a matter of waiting for the clock to run out. You got a 41-point lead. Couple of things in this game too, like the weird Mathurin, DeAndre Hunter thing. Mathurin basically punches him in the solar plexus when the ball's he plays 1 minute. Something's there, obviously, these two guys. There's been some chirping or whatever. He punches DeAndre. He literally punches him in the chest. And then DeAndre Hunter walks up to him, shoves him, and he lands on the ground. He tries to sell this acting job. He's almost just like, hey, Benedict, did you remember? They've got replay now. They're going to go see what led to that, because no one really understood what happened. Oh, there you go. And he gets ejected. I don't know. Do you think there's any suspension coming or anything?
I don't know what'll happen. I don't think it'll matter. I mean, I'll say that if he gets suspended one game, I don't think it'll make a difference. I think Indiana.
Think about it. He's really probably their third best offensive player, and he played 1 minute in this game, and they still put up 129 points. So you're right. It probably won't matter. The rhythm they're in. They just had their way, and they are a team that can get on a roll like that. And I got news for you, by the way. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. I don't know who's winning the Boston-New York series. I think Boston most likely will.
Me too.
Indiana's going to give either of those teams, especially assuming the Celtics win. Indiana is going to give that team fits. I'm not saying they're going to win that series. Anybody that thinks the Boston's going to steamroll the Indiana Pacers, they got another thing coming. Indiana can score with anyone in this league. And so that would be a fascinating series to watch if we get there. But again, more work to do. Clearly, Boston's down 2-1. Pacers in control, but you got to close it out. And this Cavaliers were a 1 seed for a reason.
The way I would frame it with Indiana, because I don't know if they're going to win the next round or whatever. They're playing great. They are playing most like themselves than any other team is playing like themselves.
Good call.
That's how I would say I would put it,
like
and that's
that.
always a good thing.
I like that a lot. I think Minnesota might be next. I think maybe those two. But yeah, I agree with that. The closest to the best version of themselves. I mean, Boston did it in game 3, but overall they haven't done it in this series. But they did it in game 3. Indiana has pretty much done it almost every game. So
they look like the best version, even better than the regular season. That's how good they look. All right, before we get out of here, Legs, me and Mark Stein gave our predictions for who we think has the best chance at winning the title yesterday. We went in reverse order from 8 to number 1. Did you make your list?
I did not. I did not make a list for this. No, let me hear yours though.
Do you have it, James? Are you able to pull it up here so you could see? Because me and Mark Stein disagreed here. So I went with Cavaliers as the worst chance. I just think they're done. Warriors without Steph Curry, down 2-1 in the series. Nuggets, because they have to face, obviously get through Oklahoma City, which I don't think they will. But even if they did, they go to the Wolves, which they would be underdogs in. And then if you get through that, the final. So Nuggets 6. I put Knicks 5. This was the controversial take because they're up 2-1, but I think Boston's winning this series. Then I had Pacers, Thunder. I like the Wolves' chances in large part because I think that they have the easiest route this round. So I think they're going to win this round and get there. But I have the Boston Celtics at number 1 because I think the Boston Celtics' best game is better than everyone else's. And I'm going to count games 1 and 2 as more of an anomaly than the norm for them. So that's my list.
I would probably go OKC 1 still.
Yeah.
I'd probably put Boston 2. And then I'd probably put Minnesota 3.
Yeah.
I'd probably put Indiana 4.
I like that.
Maybe the Knicks 5. Denver 6. Golden State would probably be last right now because of this Curry situation, and then a Cavaliers probably 7th.
So you would put you would be less surprised with the Cavs coming out of the East than you would the Warriors somehow coming back without Steph.
I'm really worried about this. I don't know that we're going to see Steph Curry in this series.
I don't think we
And
will either.
I mean, I just, that's such a short turnaround, man, for a hamstring.
Yep.
For him to think that he's going to, and even if he does, they've got to go. They would have to go win a game at home in which he hasn't played in 4.5 games. Okay, so he'd have to be great with, not having played in 4.5 games. Not only win that game, you then got to go on the road and win a game 7. That's even if he makes it back. So yeah, I think I would say, pretty unlikely they escape this round.
Yeah. Well, the last one I have for you, the lottery is tonight. This is a huge lottery with Cooper Flagg, who we both love. We both think is going to be an incredible player. I just wondered who you hope he goes to. And I'll give you my logic here. The West has a lot of talent, and they keep winning the lottery, and all the great talent keeps going west. My only real hope is that Cooper Flagg winds up in the East. And if I were to make a list of the teams in the East that I would like him to land at, Chicago, number 1. I know you always try to give it to a team that's terrible. I like that Chicago always fights. I think it would be a great story for Cooper Flagg to wind up there. It's the only way I could see Chicago being relevant coming up. Then I went with Charlotte. After that, take your pick of Washington, Brooklyn, and Toronto. But I just don't want him to go to the West. The West already is loaded. Let's balance the conferences out a little bit with talent.
I'd agree with you. And I think Charlotte would be really an interesting situation.
It'd be fun.
Watching little, 2-man action with LaMelo Ball and him could be kind of fun, man. Because LaMelo Ball, I know he shoots a lot and he's flashy, and I'm not sure that they've got a winning culture in that locker room with some of those young guys. I don't know that they have any idea what it takes to win in this league. So maybe the environment wouldn't be great for Cooper Flagg, but I do think they have talent. And you add him to the mix with a point guard on that level, that could be really, really interesting. Philly is somewhere there in the mix. I'm not sure I'd want that for Cooper Flagg. Be a lot of those. No, look what's happened to the recent number 1 picks they've had.
That's true.
I mean, look what happened to Markelle Fultz, who got there and forgot how to shoot a basketball, and then Ben Simmons, who had some success early, but then the overall weight and pressure of expectations in the playoffs collapsed him, basically ended his career. Yeah. So I'm not saying this is Cooper Flagg. I think the dude is a can't miss player. He's tough. He seems like he's absolutely built for the big moment. He plays both ends of the floor. Philadelphia fans would love him, but you got to trust that organization isn't in some way cursed with their bad luck with lottery picks. I mean, it's not just the 2 guys I mentioned, man. Did Jahlil Okafor ring a bell? I mean, you've had some really hard luck with some of those top picks, even Embiid with all his health issues. So I don't know that it would work out well for Cooper Flagg in Philly, even though I think that he is built for it. He's not going to be a bust or have some issues like some of these other guys have.
To me, what's interesting about the teams like Philly or Houston or these teams that are further along, they win the lotto. You might trade that pick for a Giannis. You might be further along. And, if you're Milwaukee and your future's not looking very bright, but you can get Cooper Flagg and some other pieces, that might be the move. So there's a handful of teams I look at this. Usually you win the number 1 pick. There's no questions asked. You're starting a new rebuild with a player like Cooper Flagg. But there are a few teams that I would look at and say, hey, maybe that's it. That's your trade piece to go make that big move and completely change the balance of power in your conference. So should be great. We had 1 super chat. Let's get to it real quick and get out of here. Drew Chung says, I don't understand proximate fouls. Why was Jokic's push on Caruso not called in Dagnot's challenge? I don't know.
Trying to remember the call. Which call was this? I'm not sure off the top of my head. I would have to have had that question a little bit earlier. I could look that up again.
It was when Caruso fouled Jokic on a shot. But prior to that, he had shoved.
Yeah, he should have. He should have.
Yeah,
I remember that play now. He should have.
Yeah.
He got shoved in the back, which led him to foul Jokic. And they missed it. I don't know. Yeah. And then I remember Tony Brothers going into the thing, and all he talked about was the fact that there was contact on Jokic. Yeah, we knew that. Yeah. Caruso and OKC was saying, well, yeah, but here's why. And they didn't even seem to really take a look at that. So that was confusing.
Well, I think you can. I think that's the rule, is that if it happens alongside, like in the same play, guy gets fouled and fouls immediately, it happens. But that was like 2 separate actions. Jokic fouls him, shoves him out of bounds. Caruso has to come back into the play and foul Jokic. So it was too
well,
far
I don't.
removed.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say to that, Adam, is it's exactly what happened in the Draymond Green play that he got his 5th foul. I mean, because there was a foul after that on Jimmy Butler.
Yeah,
and they said that he was holding up Julius Randle first. Those were 2 separate plays, but they still went and they basically I feel like everything's fair game once they go to that camera and what they see that led to that. So I guess they were saying in that case, Randle wasn't able to get in position in time because Draymond Green was holding him up. So
I'll tell you what, there's a lot of these calls that I don't fully understand. You can hit the outro music there, James. A lot of these calls, it's not that I don't understand the letter of the law. I don't understand the logic of them. There's some stuff that's going on in the rule book of the NBA right now that I just absolutely despise. And stuff like that is one of them. If you're going to review a play, these things are connected to each other. So why not get it right? But the NBA has its standard, and it makes for some confusing challenges, confusing results, and everything else. But these playoffs are great. I think that we see the finish line in round 2, but you know what? This is what makes sports great. Teams get their back against the wall, and sometimes they surprise you. So tonight, we got another shot at that with 2 great games, and we'll be back talking about them tomorrow. Everybody hit that like button for us. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you tomorrow.
Silly like the mayor.